So, morning all, and welcome to this Thursday edition of the Morning Commute. As ever, I'm joined by Clem today. Clem, morning. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. I was just saying, I don't want to go to work. It's too sunny.
Yeah, we discovered that our local park has a table tennis table a week or so ago. So we ordered ourselves a table tennis starter kit, which finally arrived. So we were out playing table tennis in the sunset last night, which was lovely. So anyway, how are you? Over to you.
Okay, so today in the show, we have an interview with Gavin Francis from Worthstone, and we will be joined by two more of our conference speakers, Tom Parkinson of Heritage and Oliver Booker from Mercury Wealth Management. But before that, we have Jack on the news desk from New Model Advisor. What do we have in the news, Jack, today?
Jack, you're on mute.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
okay.
we can.
Thanks. Sorry, another fairly quiet news day this morning. It seems like every morning I do the Next Gen Commute. It's a very dull, quiet news day, unfortunately. So I'll try and keep it fairly brief. It's a bit of national news that we're covering this morning. Came out yesterday. Prime Minister Boris Johnson yesterday spoke in front of MPs at the liaison committee. Among a number of things he was questioned on, including whether people should drive 60 miles to get eye tests. He was also asked about government support for directors who pay themselves income via dividends. Obviously, this has been a big issue for a number of small self-employed directors who've not been able to get any furlough support from the government, even though employees and self-employed will get government support. He was questioned on this. Surprisingly, he was fairly equivocal, basically said that he would discuss this matter with the Chancellor and talked about potentially get some extra cash for directors who pay themselves by dividends. Just some final quick news from your more closer to home. And good news as well, Nick, who's the former IFP boss, has been invited by Buckingham Palace to attend next year's royal family's garden party for individuals who've done some great work for charity. I'm sure most of you know Nick was the chief executive of the IFP before tragically suffering a stroke. Since then, he's gone on to raise over £120,000 for stroke charities, including the Stroke Association, and he's been invited by the royal family to attend next year's garden party in 2021 for individuals who've done some great work for charity. So that's some good news there.
Great, thank you very much. Is there anything else that you're looking out for today?
Not a huge amount, just some other national news, and that the government's track and tracing program, I think, comes into effect today. I don't really know what that's going to look like, but potentially people will get phone calls saying they need to self-isolate from these new 25,000 tracers who've been employed. But I think it's going to be very early stages for that program that's come into effect today. And I also think the government are going to publish some more documents today about easing the lockdown. So there might be some more details about getting back to the pubs and things like that, which would be good.
Thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks, Clem.
Over to you, Marcus.
So next up, we're going to talk to three of our conference speakers, three of the people who'll be focusing on innovation as their topic. So alongside our very own Clem, we've got Oliver Bork of Mercury Wealth Management and Tom Parkinson from Heritage. Good morning, all.
Morning,
so without giving everything away, it would be wonderful if you'd each give us a little bit of a flavour as to what it is that you're going to be talking about. Oliver, why don't we start with you?
All right, so morning all. Title of my talk is Why We Shouldn't Be Afraid of Skynet. And so Skynet is this wonderfully artificial intelligence neural network type thing from the Terminator movies, I think. But my objective here is to be able to think of a way how we shouldn't be afraid of this kind of stuff, and actually how we can thrive in a world of artificial intelligence and working alongside it. So that's a bit of a flavor, and I'll unpack more on the day.
Looking forward to hearing more about that. Fantastic. And how about yourself, Tom?
Yes, good morning all. Thank you for having us. I suppose the title of my speech is Automated Advice, the Washing Machine of Financial Services. Read into that what you will. I really won't talk about where the washing machine comes into the speech, because I suppose that would be giving far too much away. But the majority of the speech is about embracing automated advice and how we can work with it rather than it being something that replaces us, because quite often in our industry, obviously, we deem it to be quite a scary thing that could potentially replace us. So that is the essence of the speech, really.
Okay. Interesting. Perhaps some parallels going on there between your talk and Oliver's. And Clem, how about yourself? What are you going to be talking about?
I'm talking about the secret powers of your money. So I think for people who know me, they already know that it's going to be about sustainable investing, and that even your tiny pound in the bank or the few hundreds you might have in your pension if you just started working all have an impact, and you can make an impact with it.
Brilliant. Okay, so now we've got a bit of a sense as to where you guys are going to be taking this. Thinking ahead, how do you think the profession might change in the future, or perhaps how would you like the profession to change in the future? Clem, do you want to kick us off on that one?
I think I'd like to. I think that the way it's going to change is that sustainable investing is not going to be. Sustainable investing is an option. I'm just going to talk to my, fluffy clients about it. It's going to be the norm, and I think that if you didn't want to do that, you'd have to tell your advisor why you want to invest in weapons and oil and vice industries and other things. I think this is what's going to happen over the course of the next 10 years. It's going to be just normal.
And yourself, Oliver, what do you think might happen in the profession over the next 10 years or so?
That's a really interesting question, actually, because I think our profession is really still in its infancy. So defining what financial planning is and what the value is that we can add to the masses, that's really going to be where I think we're going to be going. But I think there's going to be more and more specific technology built to be able to support our profession and the outcomes that we're trying to deliver to clients. But I think importantly, firms are going to start defining themselves by why they do what they do and not actually how they make money. We all are financial planners by trade, but why are we financial planners? So I think that's going to be how we're going to start looking forward.
Fantastic. And how about you, Tom? Has any of that tickled your fancy?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I hope Clem is right within sustainable investing, and I definitely hope that Oliver's also right. And I think, to be honest, in terms of changes that are going to happen, I think the way in which we interact with clients is going to change. I think that the time that we spend with the clients will be far more focused on their lifestyles rather than their finances. I think that we become more lifestyle planners rather than just financial planners. And as a part of that, we will take care of the finances, but I think we'll be there to sort of coach them through life, and obviously all the upsides and downsides. And that's one of the beautiful things about our career, is that you can help somebody through those really sensitive times in their life, and be there to support family members as well. So I think that we'll move away from just financial planning and holistic planning to the full lifestyle planning, really.
And do you think that automated advice has a role to play there?
I think so, because I think that it will take a lot of time away from the advisor to do the actual financial planning bit, freeing up some of our time to spend with the client and really understanding those true goals and objectives. I think if we can move away from double keying, re-keying and re-entering data, we're far more qualified than to really just be entering data into a fact find the hard facts, especially when the client's got to give it to you in one way or another. Why can't that be automated and allow the client to have a really sort of smooth process before they even sit down with yourself and have a really meaningful conversation?
Oliver, I know that process and in a smooth process will be a phrase that Tom's just used that will have pricked your ears up. Do you want to weigh in on that? How do you think that the tech might help to take away some of the dross side, if you like, of what we do?
Well, I read a book once that's called Automate the Boring Stuff. And literally, I think if you can repeat a task over and over again, then, you shouldn't really be doing it. It should be done by software. And, there's this great company that's just starting out here, and it's a piece of software that'll sit on your network and it'll look for tasks that you do on a frequent basis. And it'll say, do you want me to automate this? And, I think things like that, like easily defined processes, that's how it's going to go forward.
Awesome. That sounds great as far as I'm concerned. So over the last couple of months, obviously we have all been adapting quite heavily to a very rapidly changing workplace. Clem, what do you think that firms have learned from this change? And have you seen any innovations? Do you think that innovations will come from this rapid and forced change that we've all had to live through?
I think it depends which firm you work for. Here, lots of firms are quite young, and so they try to automate and find, ways to make their operations probably quite efficient because they're starting out. But working in a firm that's been around for quite a while, I think a lot what we have learned and other firms who have learned is that you don't need as much paper as you think, and you can have a productive meeting by video. And I think for a lot of clients, this will become a really great option because they just don't have time. They have to make an appointment with you. It's too much. They're too busy. But if they know that, they can say, "Can I call you at some point Tuesday afternoon?" And you'll be like, "Yeah, just press the button and I'll be there," without them knowing you're going to have to come to London or whatever. And the other thing I think that people are going to have to ask themselves really profoundly is, what is an office space and why do we have it? What is the purpose of it? I know lots of people work from home and they have these part-time work from home arrangements, but most people out there are demanded to go to the office at a certain time and leave a certain time. And I think now everybody's just starting to think, what is the reason of that? And to me, that really comes back from when most people were working in factories and you had to go to the factory to do your work because you couldn't do it at home, and there were shifts and everything. But I think that's a big question that lots of people should ask themselves.
Do you think that you can see changes within your firm? Do you think you'll return to how things were when this is all over?
I think temporarily we might, but we had a plan to, because we own the building, and renting 1/6 of it, we had planned to knock through and completely redesign the office, because it's also a bit old and everything. But I think once we get to that stage where we can do that, I think the plans or the initial thoughts of how it might look like will be very different, because for one, I will not return to the office full time unless I've been made to do that. I have said nope, not going back. So I think there is that in my firm, that's definitely something that's gonna change.
How about yourself, Oliver? Do you think things will change within your organisation?
I think things have already changed in our organisation. Clem, I echo the things that are told to me on a daily basis by a lot of my team. We're not going back to the office. I say, well, you don't have to. Don't look at this as a job. Don't look at this as a shift. You've got responsibilities. So just make sure that you meet those responsibilities, and then you can have the flexibility and freedom to do what you want, manage your time like an adult. I don't need to tell you how to do that. That's not what I'm here for. But I think there'll be a lot of firms, certainly here, who are practicing the more flexible and more responsible type of culture for individual team members just to plug into. And I think provided we can maintain that culture throughout the business in whatever way it looks like, whether it be in a physical or virtual environment, that's going to be a really important challenge that we need to overcome going forward.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Culture isn't something that has to be formed when people are in the same room, but I think there is a big benefit as to how we go about forming it when we're not. So just as we begin to wrap this section up, we asked all of our guests what they're looking forward to when this is all over. Now we're moving to focus on the conference as that's approaching. So Tom, what are you most looking forward to about Conference Week itself?
Well, every person who gets asked that question obviously answers with one thing and one thing only, which is curry night. But I think that was not allowed. So with that not being allowed, to be honest, actually just getting to spend some time with the great people of NextGen, really. It's a real shame that it can't go ahead in its fullest format, but I was really looking forward to just getting to know a lot of the community, obviously having been a part of it now. And I've not really met that many people face to face, just having some really meaningful conversations. So I'm hopeful that we're able to intermingle that throughout the week, and obviously just actually, if that goes offline via Slack or whatever, then yeah, just that really.
I quite agree. How about yourself, Clem?
Yeah, I want to say curry night as well. And if it had been in Manchester, I would have said sleeping on a boat, because I usually sleep on a boat. But no, I think I'm really looking forward to the content, because it's going to be in nice 10-minute bites, and it's going to be from lots of people I know, and I think it's going to be really, really interesting. It's going to make for such interesting conversations afterwards as well. And and I look forward to actually when we can actually have the big NextGen bash at some point, where we can all meet up and spread the coronavirus amongst ourselves.
I agree. I think it's going to be fascinating to see how people's talks link. I mean, we can already see that Tom and Oliver's are perhaps related, and Oliver and I have had conversations offline that suggest that we've got some similar strands within ours. So it'd be really interesting to see how that all plays out. So Oliver, finally, you're up, and curry night, as you know, is not an answer. So what are you most looking forward to about conference week?
Absolutely, the global commute. I really wish I could stay up the whole 24 hours and watch the whole thing, which I might do, but my talk the following day might not be as productive or as helpful. But I mean, I think getting the perspective from the international community will be invaluable for us. And I'm especially looking forward to people on Easter Island, Adam. I know that you've managed to find people in the middle of the Pacific, so I can't wait.
Awesome. Well, thanks, guys. Thanks for joining us today. That's been fantastic. Just
Thanks,
before I pass over to Clem, we all know that Thursdays are birthday celebration days, if we can possibly make it. And I've just been told that it's next gen favourite Fluffy Basil's birthday. So happy birthday, Fluffy Basil. Welcome to the birthday club on the Morning Commute. So over to you, Clem. What's up next?
Well, next I had the delight to interview Gavin. Gavin is the founder and director of Worthstone. And I'm not going to say much more. I'm just going to ask how you are, Gavin. How are you today?
Thank you. I'm really well. Thank you, Clem. It's really lovely to see everyone on the show. It's amazing what you guys are doing. It's really inspiring, and seeing that all of this is happening is encouraging.
So tell us a bit about what Worthstone is and what you do, and how does that relate to financial planning?
So we're just obsessed with impact and what impact you can generate from your investments. And what we do is try and help financial planners understand what impact they can generate from their clients' investments, and make that easy to understand, help their clients visualize what that impact might look like, and effectively construct portfolios to generate more impact from their clients' portfolios if the client's so willing to do, wants to do that. So that's kind of what we do. And, there's an education bit around that. There's bringing like-minded people together. That's it, really.
Talking about the education piece, you also have a advisor competency training, and can you talk a bit about that and how advisors can, learn more about impact investing and how to accompany their clients in that way?
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because the professional bodies have been really slow to embrace this approach to looking at investment, and I don't think impact investing is a product or an asset class. It's an approach. It's a way of thinking about investment, and it's another dimension that you're looking for in your investments over and above the financial metrics. So it's really important to try and explain how that concept works and how it can fit into financial planning. And if advisors have got no way of finding out about that through their own professional bodies, we felt that it was really important to get something out there that was credible. So written by experienced financial planners and other experts in the impact field, and informative, creative, engaging. And Adam helped us with it, so it must be really good. And that's what we did. We kind of wrote it ourselves because we went to the professional bodies, and they kind of weren't really, they were interested in the business case rather than what it could do for the planning community.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there with sustainable investing. I've just, as you know, I've been recently through my exams, and really there's maybe 2 paragraphs in a book somewhere hidden. And I've had to do a lot of the learning myself. Do you think that because the traditional qualification routes don't talk about impact investing or sustainable investing either, do you think that is holding back people's interest in this area, maybe in our profession?
I don't know about that. I couldn't say that's definitely the case. I think what I've noticed is that if you ask a client a question, I'm not client facing, so we work as an intermediary serving the financial planning community. But if you, having spoken to hundreds of advisors and planners about this, if you ask the client the question, you are sometimes surprised at the answer you'll get from people that you never expected might be interested in this area. And there's loads of evidence to prove that. There's countless surveys. There was one really fascinating one which came out last year, at the end of last year in September, which said that 56% of clients would invest sustainably. So, but what was interesting about that was the survey sample size was 6,000. Now, there's never been a survey of that substance before. So this is, you know, that means that for those statisticians and mathematicians out there, that means that you're basically got a 2% differential potentially in that answer. So even if, let's say, in the worst case scenario, it was 54%, but they then had a cohort that had £25,000 liquid investment or more to invest. And that cohort, the response was 74% of those people would invest sustainably if given the choice. Now that's the key part, is you have to be given the choice, because that same cohort, only 13% of them actually had a sustainable investment already. So that's a massive advice gap. And it's probably because most financial planners or advisors maybe they have a conflict of interest, because if you ask the client a question, you're going to have to provide them with a solution. And if their firm hasn't got a solution, they're unlikely to ask the question. And that's my experience. That's not through research, that's anecdotal, but it is through speaking to hundreds of advisors. So that's where I think the gap is: ask the question and deliver a solution.
That's very helpful. I think I remember also the conference last year. There was a researcher from the University of Zurich, and I'm not going to try to pronounce the name because I think she's from Korea, and I can't quite remember how to pronounce it. But she also had a study which was very interesting, which said the firms, all the big banks wealth managers are on board to do sustainable and impact investing. There is lots of solutions. They all build their solutions, and actually the people who stopped it from developing and going to the clients was the advisors, because they never asked the questions and never just presented as an option. And I think, that's I think we're very much putting the brakes here as advisors into this becoming more mainstream amongst our clients, I guess. In terms of like the future of impact investing and sustainable investing, how do you see that developing in the next 5 to 10 years?
That's a really interesting question. So I'm just about to, I reckon I've done about 19,000 hours on this area, which is effectively 10 working years. And I saw an interesting quote from Bill Gates the other day. I'm not sure when he said this, but it was fascinating. He said, we often overestimate what we can achieve in 1 year and underestimate what we can achieve in 10. So I'm going to underestimate what I think the answer is to your question. I completely concur with what you said earlier, which is impact investing is going to be investment as usual. So, and that comes back to my point about it being an approach. And the other thing I'd really like to say is that the reason I call it impact investing, and I use that as a catch-all term for all of these different labels that they put in the market, like ESG, these are all marketing labels. It's about the approach. And what that means is every investment has an impact. So there is no such thing as a neutral investment. Companies are good or bad. They are doing either really positive things and not damaging the environment and putting out products and solutions that are helping to meet the greatest challenges that we have in this world, or they're doing stuff that is damaging to our planet or to society. There isn't any in between. And what I think this crisis has shown us is the difference between individualism and interdependence. And we have that in our lives, so the people who go out and hoard, empty the supermarkets of all the toilet rolls, not thinking that other people might need some as well. We've seen it with people going to the beaches and, breaking the lockdown and all those sorts of things. And we see it in corporate life as well, where people are just focused on, rushing for the money, the government money, because it's out there. But, we've also seen the other side, which is where people have been donating to food banks, have been, giving free coffees to health workers. And what we'll see is that, the likes of Wetherspoons, whose CEO said, our 40,000 workers can go and get jobs at Tesco's, compared to Timpson's, who said, we're closing all our shops to protect our workers, and we're going to pay them 100% of their salary until we can open them again safely. People are going to remember this stuff. So there are good companies and good practices, and there are companies and practices that we probably, don't want to be associated with. And I think that has to be hard coded into legislation. I don't think, the only thing I would disagree with you is that I don't think it's about the future. I think it's about now. The future is going to be too late. We've got to make this has got to happen now. And, by investing sustainably, we're all trying to do our bit, like recycling, eating less meat, taking shorter showers. That's all really good stuff. But there is evidence to prove that just investing sustainably is 27 times more effective in terms of reducing CO2 emissions than all of those activities combined. So the power we have is in our money. And that's so important. We've got to use that power, and later is too late. We've got to do it now.
Thank you, Gavin. I think that is a really great thing to end on as well. So thank you very much. I think it's very powerful. And you'll hear more about impact investing from me as well at the conference. Thank you very much, everyone. Marcus, do you want to let us know what's happening tomorrow?
Sure. So we're throwing tomorrow's show over to financial wellbeing as our topic, with a few more of our conference speakers joining us. We'll have Friday Wins with Hiren and Dan, and an extended feature from Chris Budd. So have a great day, guys. See you soon. Cheers. Bye.
Bye.